Keeping inflation in check less of a priority for the Federal Reserve now?
No, absolutely not. What we're trying to do is achieve a balance. We've been very, very clear that we will not allow inflation to rise above 2% or less.
Can you act quickly enough to prevent inflation from getting out of control?
We could raise interest rates in 15 minutes if we have to. So there really is no problem with raising rates, tightening monetary policy, slowing the economy, reducing inflation at the appropriate time. Now, that time is not now.
You have what degree of confidence in your ability to control this?
100%.
Well, all due respect to the good chairman, Ben Bernanke, there's no way he's going to be able to manage inflation to 2% by raising interest rates, as he says. In fact, he's already way behind the curve. This chart shows 3 data series. These are produced by the St. Louis Fed. The first is the Producer Price Index. We prefer the Producer Price Index here at iTulip because it's a simple measure of all the revenue from all the producers of services in goods in the United States. There's no hedonic pricing or any of that stuff that's done with the Consumer Price Index. So it's a very simple measure of what producers are getting paid for their goods. The civilian unemployment rate is the standard rate that you see in the news all the time. And then we have the S&P 20 City Home Price Index. So let's compare these. Let's start back before the recession. Unemployment stood at just under 5%. Housing prices had been plummeting since the early part of 2006 and continued to fall until the beginning of 2009. Meanwhile, we had a very strong spike in energy input prices. Those began to work their way into finished good prices starting in the middle of 2006. So that by the middle of 2008, we had inflation in the range of about 12% annually. Then, of course, we had the financial crisis and the Great Recession. The Great Recession is this area shown in gray here. A couple things happened. Of course, unemployment went from under 5% to just over 10%. Goods prices declined from this positive 12% rate very briefly down to negative territory, about -8, -9%. Then the massive reflation from the Federal Reserve, interest rate cuts, TARP, bailouts, and so forth, and of course massive fiscal stimulus. This had 2 effects. Of course, it caused the housing market to reflate somewhat from a rate of almost 20% decline in 2009 to a positive rate of almost 5% in the middle of 2010. It also pushed goods prices up from -8% to about positive 8%. Now, the next thing that happened, fast forwarding to today, is here we have housing prices again declining. So even with trillions of dollars thrown at the housing market, housing prices are back in a decline mode and are now in negative territory. Unemployment, however, remains high. It is officially at 9.4%. And goods inflation is hovering right around 5%. Now, 5% is where it was back in 2007 when unemployment was 5%. So here we have a situation where unemployment is 5%. Unemployment is 9.5%, inflation is 5%, and housing prices are declining. So it's hard to understand how the Fed thinks it couldn't simply raise interest rates. It should have been raising them already. But with high unemployment and declining housing market, it is in no position to do so. So in the future, there's basically really only one thing that can happen here. If the economy does improve and unemployment does fall, then inflation has to rise. And if the Fed responds too quickly with rate hikes to this, it will accelerate the decline in the housing market and cause spillover into the real economy and raise unemployment once again. So the Fed is really stuck here. So, contrary to the good chairman's assertion that he can raise interest rates in 15 minutes should inflation approach 2%, we already have inflation at 5%, unemployment at 9.4%. As we forecast many years ago, this Fed has found itself in the situation of having to choose between unemployment and inflation. And today we have Yosemite Sam and Bugs Bunny to demonstrate how it's really going to go. Enjoy.
I dare you to step over this line.
Okay, I'm a steppin'.
I dare you to step over this one. This one. This one. That one. That one. This one.
Not that away, you darn galoot.
Your first play. Come on, put down a card.
All right, don't rush me. I'm a thinkin'. And my head hurts.
Yeah, that's it.